The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. The library was quiet, and certainly a strange place for an iker extractor, but Astro had stopped questioning the extraction locations about 4 floors ago. His little heart was beating fast though, as if it was trying to force some kind of ambience. The tune was timid, shy even, and as always had snuck off as soon as the elevator opened. Sure, this was dangerous, but he just couldn't handle hearing the others' screams. Alone, he had better chances anyway. Trying to breathe as calmly as possible, he readjusted the blankie hanging around his shoulders. It gave him comfort. Of course, he knew that this comfort was fake. The memories he had were from the show, which was a show. This was the real world. Yet he couldn't help but feel like he had been ripped out of a friendly, familiar, and colorful environment into, well, this. Collecting iker, a contagious black substance that was as dangerous as it was apparently important. Fiercely protected by toons who came into contact with the substance, the twisted ones. Macabre mutations of what he was familiar with. So mean. So mean. He placed both hands on his little head. He needed to stop thinking about the reality of his life. Return to reality. Focus on the task at hand. But his luck would very soon run out. In fact, it already had. He couldn't see them, the tiny black tendrils that had been sneaking around the bookshelves, feeling the vibrations of his movements. Their sensitive jet black skin echoing to the source without gaining any attention from him. Astro yelped. A book had fallen. The appendage responsible retreating faster than he could look. But it was that yelp that confirmed his location to you. If he hadn't been alone, this would not be happening. And right now, if he had been aware of the danger he could have still run. With a void expression, though, he picked up the book. A pop-up book, unrelated to his predicament. But as he returned it, he noticed the thin, almost translucent residue on the shelf's back, and curiously he touched it. Swirling the slime beneath his fingers, it smelled like cheap glue and felt like Vaseline. Astro didn't know what could have caused this, and he felt better not knowing. Quickly pushing the book back in place, he turned his attention back to exploring. Reaching the end of the shelf, he turned right, shining his flashlight down the hall. Something reflected back. The glass of an extractor. His eyes widened. This was very fortunate. No twisted ones seemed to be nearby as well. Quickly he ran forward, his mouth finally decorated with a smile, when suddenly, out of nowhere, his foot hit something hard, and he could feel a gravity shift. Before his face could turn from happiness to utter shock, Astro slammed face first into the carpeted floor. His face dragging across it from the force. He groaned, rolling on his back to look back. There was a wrinkle in the carpet. But it wasn't a wrinkle for long, as it moved. He screamed and immediately crawled backwards. Rolling on his stomach, he tried standing up, but the thing managed to wiggle out from under the carpet, and it shot forward like a snake, only just barely missing his ankle. His heart was pounding, and even though he managed to get back on his feet, he couldn't run. He was too scared. He didn't know where to even run, feeling as if running would just make things worse. Or perhaps he just wanted to see what was inevitably going to happen anyways. What he would call bravely looking into the face of death, anyone else would call an acceptance of it. The darkness, in form of dozens of tiny, thin tendrils, was encroaching. His hand shaking, he watched them form into the shape of a paper-thin hand, clawing towards him. Until he raised his right foot, a bit of sweat running down his forehead. Stomp! Astro didn't know why he just did that. What insane thought pattern formed in his brain to do this? A screech sounded throughout the library, as if the entire thing was alive. Books tumbled from shelves as more tentacles revealed themselves as having been hidden behind them, and the tentacle he stepped on felt squishy and oily beneath his naked foot. As he pulled up, a thick, blank slime, not iker, was still connecting him to it. Stuck to his foot like an overly zealous gum. And then finally, an arm-thick tentacle shot up from behind him, wrapping around his throat. He clasped the thing with his 4 hands, but he was too weak, and thrown to the ground. Over and over, the pain was unbearable, and yet he managed to cling to consciousness, though if that was a good thing, he wasn't sure of. Only when he went limp, pretending to be knocked out or dead, did the tentacle stop throwing him around. Slowly, quietly, he was now dragged across the floor. Small tendrils began wrapping around his ankles, hip, and even knees. Grip so tight it hurt, until his journey suddenly came to an end. Astro forced his eyes shut, squeezing them so tightly he was making a grimace. He didn't want to see it. It was enough that he could hear it. Grotesque, slimy, squirming and squelching noises and a feminine heaving and groaning. He refused to look at you, as you lifted him in front of your face. Your red glowing eye was twitching in its socket as you inspected the prey that had fallen into your trap. You were a black mass of iker and muscle, attached, practically growing out of the wall itself. A wall given flesh and life. And while there was almost no resemblance left to the toon you had once been, you had been a funny toon. Funny as in that being your name. An anthropomorphic mushroom. You had a beige, oval-shaped body and wore a tie, black eyes, and a red bob cut with white spots. But in your twisted form, your body experienced massive growth. Be that on floor or walls, attaching yourself to it and growing like a tumor. Your tentacles. Your tools. Searching for anything to add to your mass to absorb. About a third of your old toon body was sticking out of your mass. A singular, heavily mutated, elongated arm, not yet devoured by the greater whole. It was that hand that you stretched out now. It was about 6 times its original size and length. A long, slender, skeletal arm with razor-sharp claws, and the only means of truly dealing damage, aside from absorption and throwing toons around with your tentacles. Your massive hand placed against the face of Astro, gently rubbing over it. He felt warm, so warm. Astro could feel the tips of your claws scrape over his skin. His lips quivered, and your pupils dilated. So he was still alive. Out of your mass, you raised your heavy, mutated head, just a tiny bit. Your teeth retracting as they functioned as your lips now. A grotesque, high-pitched scream coming from you. You shoved him into your mass. And immediately Astro panicked, thrashing around in the grasp of your tentacles. The moment his skin had made contact with your greater mass, he could feel foreign thoughts like electricity shoot in his brain. He resisted, pushing against you. He hasn't been absorbed yet. But he was not stronger than you, in the slightest. "Funny, please don't do this!" he screamed, but then you shoved a tentacle into his mouth. His eyes widened as it swished around in him. It was thick, too thick to bite down onto. You could feel his teeth scrape and push against your appendage's skin. You tickled his tongue, rubbed the slime-secreting tip over the inner walls of his mouth. Pulling out, he coughed, a thin line of black iker running past his lips before it prodded again. He averted his gaze in time, but the tentacle around his neck forcefully twisted his head, until you could jam the thick appendage back into his mouth. Next, a group of your roots snaked up his ankles, legs, and thighs, feeling over him, leaving a thin layer of the glue-like sludge, staining his clothes, and then you released digestive juices through them. The smell of burning, melting fabric entered Astro's nostrils as he began to melt away the clothes that he was wearing, even his blanket. Your eye widened with delight as you stared at his exposed, meek, slender little body. Such a tiny thing, shivering and shaking. He gagged as you shoved your tentacle deep into his throat. Like a warm hug, you wrapped yourself around his hip, snaking your tentacles up to his chest. The finger-thick tips gently squeezing the tiny dark blue buttons on his chest. He gagged as he attempted to gasp, out of shock from the gentle, lecherous ministrations you were giving him. Your hand once again shot forward. It rubbed over his tummy, prodded at his navel before going lower. And Astro screamed as you touched him at a very sensitive place. But he was no longer sure exactly why he was screaming. Sure, there definitely was fear. He knew he was going to die. There was some pain. You were holding him quite painfully, and that thing in his mouth was really pushy. But also he was enjoying this. The pleasure you were giving him was making him twitch and shudder. You couldn't do anything against it, and that's when you pressed his exposed little body against your writhing mass again. His arms sank into the soft blob-like black flesh, as multiple tiny licking and kissing holes opened up on your skin, caressing him, sucking him. He let out a noise that was somewhere between a scream of horror and bliss. As you pushed him against you, he could feel his grip lessen, the feeling of his hands and feet vanishing first. Trying to pull his arm out of you only led to the forming of a fleshy tent of skin with the remains of the bones of his hands as its ceiling. He screamed in terror at the sight, knowing that his flesh had already become part of yours. Your eye rolled down its socket to look at his face. You were beyond emotions at this point, your thoughts and feelings having infused with too many other tunes and twisted ones alike, while your nurturing and somewhat flirty personality remained dominant, giving all the voices and thoughts a common goal. Your clawed hand placed on his head, as almost gently you pushed his face into your mass. The tentacle still in his mouth, settling on his tongue, and soon even Astro's very own tongue stopped obeying him. It became a tube to push iker into his body. The flesh around his face began to melt into your greater being, his thoughts beginning to slip. As he began to hear whispers and emotions, he felt emotions that definitely shouldn't be his. He felt... he'd call it nurturing, but not like a mother did her child, more like a lover soothing the frightened partner. His eyes rolled up to look at your face, after he could no longer open his mouth, but there was something else in his vision. It was himself. He could see through your eyes now, too. It was hurting his brain. Seeing the melted mass he had become, the tendrils his brain began Seeing the melted mass he had become, he panicked, and the tendrils in his brain began to gently hug and soothe and consolidate. Iker tears ran out of his eyes. He could clearly see them, black as death itself. Your hand reached down to his face, and you gently swiped them away, your thumb caressing his cheek, and Astro closed his eyes.
Astro? Astro? Astro.
The Moon Toon could feel something warm on his tummy, and then something poked him. Frightened, he jolted up, finding himself in a colorful meadow beneath a tree. His lower body half poking out from the canopy's shadow, it was being warmed by the sun. Next to him stood Funny the Fungus. You had a smile on your face, and you were holding a stick in your nubby little hand, which you had poked him with.
Astro! You fell asleep on us!
Raising his head, the Toon looked around. He rubbed his head in a daze. I had a terrible nightmare. This caused you to chuckle and pat his head.
But aren't you the dream guy?
You paused and he furrowed his brows, not getting the joke.
You know, like I'm the fun gal. Fungal. It's a wordplay on fungus.
It's a terrible joke. He sighed, while you and the others laughed. Goop was here, Boxton, Poppy, Cosmo, and Yada. Where are the others? He said as he slowly stood up.
They aren't here yet. Wanna come have a look for them so we can all play together?
He asked with a warm smile. Astro looked at his 4 hands. He couldn't shake the terrible feeling the nightmare had left within him.
Or do you want to stay with us? We can play together. We don't need the others. Just,
Just a thought. Astro tapped his fingers together. No. He felt a greater purpose. I want the others to be here too. I feel better if our group was bigger, and wouldn't it be more fun? He placed a hand on his shoulder reassuringly.
Okay then. See you back soon.
That's when you could feel something stir and awaken deep inside your squelching mass. Your stomach bloated, inflated, and your eye rolled back in bliss from the pain. Until finally, a loud, grotesque pop. And out of the gory mess of flesh and ichor, he could see a tall, slender shape with 4 arms. Astro twisted into his new, more suitable form, stood up, his arms and legs elongated, eyes glowing a scarlet red. His upper arms were fused to his face, while his lower arms just hung there. His nightcap twitching with the abominable life you had given this twisted, macabre homunculus. Only traces of Astro's personality remained like this. Astro looked at you, then raised his lower right arm to wave at you as if to say, I'll be back soon with the others. Good job for reaching this point in the video. Typing cucumber water in the comments below to show everyone that you did. Anyways, we reached also the ending of the video, and I would like to shout out all of my lovely channel members, specifically my darling stewards. We have Mimi Momo, Jaws, Melofia, Maxicat, Allison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Without you, I could not do this. And without my other channel members, I could not do this either. Your support is greatly appreciated. And please remember to like and subscribe. That would really help me out, as that also tells the YouTube algorithm that you enjoyed the video. And it would lead to my video being more advertised. So please do that. Thank you.